Yo, what's up, guys? We got a bunch of new events. We got this Nina Transmog event. To be honest, not as cool as the event that we had on the Inosuke. The Inosuke actually was like a decent upgrade. This event is like, it looks slightly different, but to be honest, also all Ninas are kind of bad. But to be honest, same thing about the Inosuke, except the light one. But this is the event that I want to talk about. So we have an event where if you do 28 days of check-ins, you will have 5 net 5s over here, and then you can choose one. What is the choice that you should make? Well, first of all, I would recommend you to wait all the way until day 28. I definitely will think that I get some people at some point asking me, it's like, oh, I have like 2 choices already. I really like one. Should I take it? Well, if it is your most wanted out there, then sure, maybe you can take it because you're not going to get something better than your most wanted, technically, right? But still, in the end, I would recommend to wait until the day 28 to actually make your choice. So first of all, what kind of choices do I recommend to make? Well, you can always join the Discord, links in the description, to ask anyone in the progression help to say, it's like, okay, I'm focusing on this content. These are my net 5s. This is what I already have. Which one should I pick? That definitely does help out. But also for you, just to have an idea already, what should you focus on? Well, first of all, I would say focus on anything that's new. Anything that's new is mostly better than a dupe in the first place. You can go for dupes, but if you go for dupes, it's siege dupes. Also, then, third thing that I would recommend people to think about is what would you like to improve in the game? Do you want to focus more on RTA? Do you need like one of the meta RTA units? Do you want to focus more on PvE progression? Do you need a Teshar? Do you need to focus more on Siege? Do you want the Tiana? Do you want the Adriana? Do you want some of those? So those are the main 3 things that I would recommend people to focus on. But I'm just going to go through a bunch of units that, just to keep in your minds, like, hey, these units are actually pretty good. Maybe you should want to be looking at having those. Plus, number 4 that I could say over there is pick something up that makes a good pair with the other units you already have. And what does that mean? Well, for example, let's say that you already have a fire hacker. You already have the fire hacker over here. You already have the, let's say you don't have a Lamila. So you have fire hacker, maybe you have Hey Gang, you have an Amber already, but you don't have Lamila. Lamila becomes very good. Maybe you have the hacker and Lamila, but you don't have an Amber. So then you want to go for Amber, which becomes really good. So those kind of combinations that you can think of become absolutely very strong. Let's say that you have a Chunk Pong, but you don't have a Tiana. Tiana becomes really good. So it's definitely a lot on the pair. Same for the Feng Yang, Leo, Alaya. If you have one of the 3 or 2 out of the 3, pick up the 3rd. Those kind of things if you have the choice. But I'm just going to go through a bunch of units which I would recommend that I would say are currently good for certain specific things, unique enough that you don't really have a good replacement for. And then just go for that, mention where they're good, and then go from every element. So fire first. I will also mention the siege dupes in here. So Tetsuya is a good RTA unit. If you do get a lot of hits by AoE things, then Tetsuya is definitely a good unit over there. I would say Trix is a good one to pick up. Rick is maybe a little bit of a bait. Well, technically, the Rick is sitting over here because I think in the end, the Zyros is better. But if you need some AoE damage for Arena, that's definitely an option out there. Jennifer is a very good one. It is the most meta siege lead defense right now. So I would say that having her, or maybe even having multiple of her currently, is definitely not bad. She's super meta in the siege defense meta that we have at the moment. And I expect her to stay there a little bit longer too. Assure RTA unit is an option right there. Then we have a whole bunch. I would say if you're earlier game account, Nora is probably one of the most all-round units you can pick. It's good for TOA. It's good for even early game RTA. It's good for Siege. It's good for Siege defense. It's good for Arena defense. Nora is super all-round. It just really does her job, which just makes her a really nice unit. Also a good unit right now in both Arena offense and also RTA is the Joe Gun, especially if you want to pair that with a Sierra. Definitely a high recommended unit over there. Okeanos is pretty meta, but you have to have good additional damage artifacts to actually make him work, so you have to keep that part in mind. Vanessa is still good for arena defense and a bunch of other things, so definitely a good pickup right there. And I think that's about it that I would recommend for fire. Sure, there's still a bunch of good picks like a Mei Wang, or if you want to focus PV, Brandia, or Rika's, those kind of things. But I feel like Rika's kind of better replaced by Trix and the Trix comp right now, or Bloodja, or anything of those kind of scenarios. So let's move on to Water. Water, of course, we say Lamila, absolutely strong, good for arena defense, good for RTA, good for arena offense, really good in a lot of those plays. So definitely a high recommended unit if you don't have it yet and it's popped up in there, recommended to go for. Irene was a little bit of meta before. It's still a little bit of meta in siege defense, but it's not really as much recommended right now. So I think that that one is just kind of an okay-ish unit to pick up right now. Amber, still really good. Absolute god tier in TOA. Really good in arena offense. Really good in siege offense. RTA, not as much, but definitely a nice one over there. Alaya, also one you want to have multiple of. So if you do get nothing new, but you have a bunch of dupes sitting in there, Alaya is definitely something that I can highly recommend. Liam, in most cases, is kind of a bait because you expect like, oh, I have Liam, so I can make a fast dungeon team. Now, Liam makes your team a little bit easier to rune on the fast style, but you still have to have your other units deal about like 75% damage, or let's say, no, 65 to 70% of the damage of the boss for Liam to always S3. So therefore, picking up a Liam to making or thinking that you have suddenly a super fast team on dragons, mostly not the case. Because by the point where you put Liam into the perfect AI state, it is most likely that another unit can kind of do enough damage to clear that as well. So it's kind of a bait on Liam. Sure, he's good if you already have it, but I wouldn't really go for like specific selecting it out there. Heigang, I've seen some people that still use multiple Heigangs, also still really good in arena offense, siege offense. I can say it's been good in RTA for the longest time out there, so definitely a good unit right there as well. Moving on next, actually not too much over there. Well, Shio, super meta unit at the moment as well. Second most picked unit in game, so definitely a unit that if you don't have it yet, you want to focus on RTA, can be really good. I have seen some scenarios where I use it in Siege as well. Then I pair it with Adriana. Adriana moves first, then just a shit ton of additional damage on this skill, multi-hits. Mostly does take out like a target. So that's kind of a snipe way that you can work with the Shiho over there. But I think that those are the highest values. Ooh, can't forget about Josephine. Josephine is also really good. And of course, Adriana. You want a lot of Adriana. So if you have those and you are looking for anything dupe related, still really good. Siri, I actually missed. Siri is a better version than a Sonya in most cases right now. So this one is just incredibly good to take out a lot of units. And it's just really nice because the Sonya is slightly nerfed. And Siri in the end still does do a little bit more damage. Also value for more dupes. On the side of Wind, I think there's more units on Wind, which are pretty interesting. If you missed out on a Nabara, Nabara is a really good 5th pick for RTA, and it's also kind of fun in arena offense. You have some siege offense where you can use her as well, so that's definitely a nice pickup if you did miss out on that one. Moving on next, Layla is incredibly strong right now. It is well paired with the Fire Jennifer on siege defense, so you can go for that. It is also definitely used a lot, and really a lot in RTA. Very strong unit for those. Keep in mind you have to have good additional damage artifacts to actually make it proper work. But definitely still a strong unit. Sonya, if you don't have her yet or if you want to have multiple, it is still a really great unit. Sure, she has less damage over here. But in the end, most of the time she still does enough damage if you just focus a little bit more on attack, a little bit more on crit damage rather than focusing on like a really big speed cap. But still very strong unit over there. Oliver, if you want to focus on RTA, you don't have Oliver. Oliver is always a great unit to pick up. That is just one of the, well, it's the most picked RTA unit in the game right now. Changpeng, I think, is still kind of underrated, but Changpeng is good everywhere. You can use Changpeng in arena offense. It's not that common, but you can use it. Siege offense, very common. TOA, super good over there. But even RTA, he still can be a good 5th pick in RTA. So I think Changpeng is more of like the underrated units, which I can recommend people to pick up if you don't have him yet. Moving on next, Feng Yang, don't really have to explain the unfair bear himself. You can't have enough Feng Yangs pretty much. Well, at the moment you have like 3+ Feng Yangs, that's probably where you think, oh, like, okay, I have enough of those. But yeah, same thing for the Leo. Like, you definitely want to have like 3 Leos for Siege. It's always super nice. Tiana, same thing, having 3 of those. So those are the 3 highest values on dupes. You want to get 3 off there. It's just really good. If you're looking more towards Siege defense, Taranis is a good option for Siege defense as well. And for current meta, of course, Sierra is a great pick as well. It's more just RTA. The other places not as much unless you want to go bombing in arena offense and siege offense. It's not that recommended, but there are a few teams that are kind of decent. And of course, Teshar is pretty nice if you're so pleased to pick that up. So there are definitely a few options which I would say those are pretty nice. But in the end, it is not as good as the Selection at 5 event. The Selection at 5 event gave you the choice of like, okay, full on 5 net 5s, or you have like these kind of things that just show like all new ones would be really nice. I would have rather seen this event actually give maybe guaranteed 1 new and guaranteed 2 new, because I think a lot of people will end up with 5 dupes over here, or at least like 4 dupes and maybe 1 garbage unit that they don't really care about. So this event, it's not that crazy in the end, but I just wanted to give a little bit of input of saying like, okay, these are some recommendations that I could say is like, hey, if you don't have this yet, or if you don't have that yet, that may be a unit that you could be looking out for. Plus, of course, you can always join the Discord, links in the description, and you can just make a screenshot of this, put it over there, and then just ask the people over there whether I respond or someone else respond. There's very much a lot of helpful people over there. Plus, keep in mind, do also mention what do you want to focus on, because just simply saying is like, oh, this is my crap. What? Yep, you figured it out for me. It's like, no, what is your idea for the game? Do you want to focus on Siege? Do you want to focus on RTA? Do you want to focus on Arena? Do you want to focus on PvE? Do you want to focus on whatever you want to focus on? Should make the choice towards what unit fits with that style, plus what already strong pairs do you have. So not just go for screenshotting all your units in the game and then placing that all in there. No, kind of have like an idea like, okay, what are the good pairs? What could I be using? What am I looking at? And in the end, I'm expecting myself to end up with 5 dupes over here because I'm not missing that many units. I'm missing a few units right now because of the collab. I'm still missing 3 collab units and then a bunch of old collab units, and I didn't pick up too many of the Beetle Guardians, it seems. So yeah, that's what I'm missing so far. Do I really mind about any of those? Well, the Jin Kazam, I do expect him to get an arena lead, so that's also a thing. Within those 28 days, that is also an interesting thing to keep in mind if you do want to make the choice a little bit too fast. We will probably have a balance patch. And let's see how long this event is lasting, because I do expect a balance patch at the end of, it will be September. So we have the European Cup, I think, on the 20th of September. I expect the balance patch to come right after, so then the other regions have like 1 or 2 weeks to work on that balance patch and then have their thing. So these 36 days will include the next balance patch. So because of that, I do highly once again recommend wait until the 28 days, because maybe you're saying like, oh, this unit is good for me right now, but after a balance patch, it might be a complete different unit that's good for you. And I don't expect a high impactful RTA kind of balance patch, but they might still do some kind of small tweaks which make something different, maybe some PvE tweaks, maybe some Siege tweaks. Some changes here and there. They're always like kind of small changes, sure, like the balance patches that are really scared to do anything big impactful. But it could be made that one unit suddenly gets like meta in PvE, or one unit gets like meta in Siege or something like that. So if something gets like a sudden speed lead in Siege or something like that, they haven't been doing too many speed leads in Siege or Arena as of lately. But yeah, just talking a bit about the event. To be honest, still not that much going on. I'm still like highly waiting for like a big patch to come, or them to bring some hype of something actual new coming, because so far the only hype we had over the last few years was just like, oh, another collab. All the units are shit. Let's buff the units after 2 balance patches. Now they're not shit anymore. Yay. But which one was not shit? I don't know. Russian roulette. So yeah, you have a blessing of like between 2 new units, and then they ask me, it's like, which one should I pick? I'm like, whichever gets buffed in the next balance match. Which one is that? We don't know, because they don't tell me shit. Either how, maybe they don't tell me shit because shit is not going on. I don't know. But yeah, I'm really hoping for that they're at some point gonna do something new, something a little bit, which makes a little bit of people more enthusiastic. But it's also hard to add anything to the game, because these 2 things were added to the game. Personally, really love them, but also a lot of people quit over it because they simply did not understand how to read and how to figure out any of the artifacts. So yeah, that's a little bit of a thing. Maybe they still had to make it explain a little bit better, rather than just say it's like, what is this? Ignore defense? Oh yeah, it's ignore defense. You could have let us know. So people would have maybe actually understood it without having to look up any guides. But yeah, let's see if they're ever going to add anything new. At some point we're going to have a 9.0, but is it this year? Is that next year? Or is that the year after? Who knows, guys? This was all my yapping for this video. Hope you did enjoy. See you as always in the next one. Let me also know which kind of normal net 5 would you be looking out for most in this event. Let me know in the comments, and see you as always in the next one.
Thanks for watching. If you would like to see more guides, join the Discord and check out the content tab for the guide video archive, which contains all of the guides that you might need. Hope to see you there.